Welcome to TapeGoat at the movies. I am TapeGoat. I love movies. Suck it. Let's do this shit today. What is today? The 10th.
It's Saturday.
Welcome. It's Saturday, everybody. The Shabbos. Yeah, we're here to talk about movies. I'm gonna start this episode off with a review. I think it's a Roger Ebert review of Saltburn from recently.
Roger Ebert review?
Yeah, it's a Roger Ebert review.
He's dead.
Saltburn, 2023, 3 stars. Going into this movie, all I really knew is that nobody felt lukewarm about it, which in my experience can often be an encouraging sign. Having thoroughly enjoyed Promising Young Woman, I was fully ready to love this movie. And I think maybe I did? The first 2/3 of it, at least. I am sad to say that I don't know if I've ever seen a film fall so magnificently flat in its third act. When I realized how predictably all of the previous setups would fall into place, I found myself bored. Not to mention a sort of sloppy and inconsistent main character with ham-fisted motivation. To give credit where it's due, Barry Keoghan performs admirably in this film. In any case, despite my decidedly mixed review, this peculiar film is still worth checking out. I'm just worried it might be a little dumb. Lol. That is my 3-star review of Saltburn on Letterboxd. Check me out on Letterboxd, everybody. So yeah, I unfortunately, as much I really did want to like this movie. I was expecting to like it. It just kind of seemed to have a lot of like intrigue.
Everything for me worked until the last 25, 30 minutes.
The weirdest...
I think that you could have had a smash cut ending with her in the hospital bed, and it would have been a dramatically better movie. You just wouldn't need to see that stuff.
The big problem for me was by the end of the movie, I felt like I understood Barry Keoghan's character less than I understood him at the beginning of the movie. I feel like they didn't write more than what... Let back it up to the beginning, because he was predictable, and once they revealed his like plot and everything like that, they didn't develop anything beyond that. It just kind of was like, it was like a Ocean's 11 twist. For anybody who hasn't seen it, basically, Barry Keoghan, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, is Keoghan, but he is an Oxford student he's an Oxford scholar, and he sets his sights on another Oxford guy named Felix, who he seems to, from the get-go, become extremely infatuated with. Granted, that does like build up a little bit slower. It's like they become good friends very, very fast. And Barry Keoghan's character is kind of like selling him this story that his parents are drug addicts and they're not great people, so he doesn't like to go home or anything like that. So when they're coming up on whatever their break is after their exams, Felix invites Oliver to come live with him on his family's estate, which is called Saltburn. And I guess they're old. I think the implication, I can't remember if they fully explain it, but the implication is that they're probably old nobility in England or something like that, because the dad's name is Sir James, and Lady Elspeth are the parents in the house. And they're kind of they're eccentric rich old people. And as the movie goes on, Oliver, Barry Keoghan's character, seems to be kind of insidiously embedding himself into these people's lives in a really intense way. He's like going around and kind of seducing a couple of members of the family and everything like that. And they're like starting to embrace him more and more, and he's becoming more just like a part of Saltburn. And then after he's been at Saltburn for a while, there's one day where Felix wants to try to resolve his issues with his parents. So he's kind of like he's getting involved in his life. So he sweeps him up and tries to take him back home because Oliver's mom called and Felix picked up and was like, okay, well, we got to get this guy home. So they get back home, and it turns out he's not from a poor drug addicted family. He's from a middle class, pretty stable home. Earlier on in the movie, he was telling the story about how his dad died and his dad's still alive. So the whole thing's a big fabrication. Oliver's a charlatan of some kind who I guess, really just wanted to be Felix's friend. I think that there was just there was always an infatuation there. So after they find that out, Felix doesn't want to embarrass his family with the news that they like fell for it. So he basically says, we're going to celebrate your birthday, and then you need to just kind of discreetly leave the estate afterwards. And that's when people just kind of start dying. Like one by one, all of the members of the family of that estate end up dead through one means or another. And Felix dies, and then the sister dies. There's the kind of a crazy sister character as well. Anyway, after all of that happens, finally, Sir James decides that he wants to bribe Oliver to leave Saltburn because he feels like his wife has become codependent on him and he's not a good influence and he just wants him to go. So Oliver leaves, and then cut forward a few years later, it's modern times. The whole movie takes place in 2006, but flash forwards at the end of 2022, he reads in the newspaper that Sir James has died, and he runs into Lady Elspeth in a cafe, and she asks him to come back to Saltburn, and he does, and she ends up dead a short time later. Turns out he, from the get-go, I guess, had manufactured a plot to work his way into their family, systematically kill each one of them, so that he could inherit Saltburn and dance naked around the palace at the end.
Exactly how the movie presents it. It's like a montage at the end.
Yeah, and it's like, so I know our buddy John, I read his review. I loved his review of this movie. I think it's one sentence, and he just said, it's Parasite if Parasite was all Tumblr GIFs. and I do like the comparison to Parasite. Here's what Parasite got right, if you ask me. Parasite starts with the family, and it establishes the desperate conditions that they live in and gives them, and it makes their kind of like progression towards conning this family and trying to work their way into it and like benefit from the wealth of the relationship that they have. They like justify all of that in the beginning by getting into what these characters experience day to day. And then it works. Like, it doesn't seem so extreme or like bizarre out of nowhere. Barry Keoghan's character shows up, and I feel like through 2/3 of the movie, most of what's making it work is just the intrigue of like, what is this movie? Like, what is this going to end up being? And you know he's up to no good. I don't know about anybody out there who saw the movie, but the moment he started talking about his dead parents, I knew he was lying. I knew right away that he would. That
I didn't get. Didn't.
Oh, dude!
Didn't
As soon as he was just like, yeah, my parents are on drugs and stuff like that, I was like, that's a lie. I don't know why it's a lie, but it's a lie. There were a couple of things that I guessed before the movie got through. First of all, I was really impressed with my film analysis, but I knew that I knew he was lying about his parents, and I knew that he had let the air out of Felix's tires so that he could meet him. I knew that. It's just in the vibes, man. It's just like in the moment you see Barry Keoghan's behavior and you sense the sexual tension. It's so quick, like the tension between them. Like, you think that they're gonna fuck. Like, in the first like 5 minutes of their relationship together, I got the vibe that it was like they're either this film is a comment on the erotic undertones of your average male relationship, the jealousy, all of that sort of stuff that's actually weirdly relatable. Or it's a romance film where these two dudes are gonna like get into some kind of lurid affair with each other. But it turned out to just be like, with a dumb twist ending where he's like, you didn't see me, but I was there the whole time. You know, like that. It feels like Ocean's 11. Like, it really does at the end when they show that montage, showing like how he flattened his tire and gave him his bike and like planned the whole thing. You're like, okay. And then they show him dancing around naked, and I couldn't help but think, it's like, is that his motivation? It might have been a little bit trite, but it's like, you know, it's hard to like rewrite a movie that you've seen to make it better. But just to get an idea of like maybe what it might have made it a little bit better is if there was even like a moment with the parents where they were like, yeah, like with his behavior and stuff like that, we never thought he would leave the house or like something like that. That makes him seem as though, or set up that he's got a history of being like a disruptive person or something like that. But they don't even do that. It's just apparent, like the moment he hit Oxford, he just devised this nefarious plot to embed himself in this man's life. And then at the end, even at the end, it's unclear whether or not it started with an infatuation, but then it turned into, I want this house. Or if it was always about inheriting Saltburn, which I think the latter is kind of absurd, like even more absurd. The idea that he was just like, I like this guy's house. I'm going to go to all of this trouble, go to this lengths, murder all of them so that I can end up inheriting this house. Also, the more shocking moments of the movie, I don't think that they amount to much of anything other than characterizing Barry Keoghan's character as a freak. That's it. Like that's what it seems to amount to. Is it's like, oh, this guy's a freaky guy. Like, but there's no deeper meaning to his behavior. So at first, I liked the escalation. I like the fact that there's all of this tension being built up and not much happens in the beginning of the movie. And then there's the cum water scene where,
Cum tub.
The cum tub moment.
Cum tub.
It wasn't what he was doing. So I audibly gagged during this scene. And it was when he starts rimming the dirty bathtub drain, because he starts like literally rimming it. That made me gag, because that just, whatever, cum water is one thing, but just like those drains are disgusting. So that's what got me in that moment. But yeah, I think that all, like, if to sum it up, I don't mind shocking movies. I like shocking stuff. That's mostly what I heard about this movie going into it, is that it's really shocking, you know, and some people are put off by that.
Break down what people. There's like three scenes that are supposed to be very shocking.
Yeah, there's a couple of different scenes that there's three. Yeah, I think exactly three. Well, no, there's
tub,
four.
Grave digging.
Cum tub, period blood, dalliance.
Yeah. Cum
where
tub,
they're just
vampire guy, grave digging.
Grave digging. There's one more where he seduces / molests that one guy. The guy, the what's his name? Oh my god, I can't. Oh, Farley. The character of Farley, where he gets into bed that night and like he like seduces him and he's like, "Are you good?"
Yeah, that seemed a little unbelievable. That sequence.
That's another moment where I'm like, why did that scene happen? Because it passes, and then even Farley later on in the movie is kind of acting like nothing happened or anything like that. And then it's also the dom sub thing, because there's this weird dom sub relationship in that moment. He's like, "Are you gonna behave?" and like asks him like, "Are you gonna behave?" like 3 times. That never comes back. That just like never comes back in the movie.
It almost kind of feels like they changed the sequence of things in post or something.
Whenever stuff like that happens, I always feel like what it is that the first part of the script is overwritten, and whoever was writing it could not come up with a neat enough way to sum it up. You know, and it's like, I know that not everybody agrees. That's not to say that like this movie is legitimately like to its core bad. I would still say go see this movie, but I don't know. I thought that it was predictable in a way that they didn't like have that extra edge to kind of make it really hit, because you can have like a conventional, I wouldn't even say that it's predictable because it's conventional. It's just obvious. I guess like it just kind of felt like with the characterization that it was obvious that Barry Keoghan's character was not on the level, you know, especially considering that in the beginning of the movie, he just shows up. Like there's not much of a backstory. There's like a little monologue at the beginning of the movie.
I think one of the major issues that I have with it is its lack of commitment to a genre that I think could give it a framework that could help it make some sense. The second time I was watching through it, I kept thinking, man, this movie could really do with a lot more ambiguity. It's just way too on the nose. Not even with just the ending, but just throughout everything. People sort of just say what's on their mind. It's not... Yeah.
It starts off intriguing, and then they almost they show too much of their hand as it goes on. And then once their hand is revealed, that's it. And then again, like it sums up like a weird caper. again, like the inconsistency with the characterization. He's so in love with this guy that he wants to like, bathe in his in his jizz, but he'll kill him in an instant to steal his house. Like how like that high diet, like one side or the other, like one is like a criminal, like shyster move, and then the other is like a psychodrama kind of thing.
Very tempting to try to dig deeper and to find why this dichotomy exists, but I think there is no answer.
I kept looking at Steph while I was watching this, and I kept saying, I can't wait until this movie shows me what it is. Like, I just kept saying that over and over again. It was nothing, but that's it. It was nothing but intriguing. And then when it was over, I wasn't satisfied because I couldn't, as much as people might think that this is like not the right way to watch movies. It's not necessarily that I wanted it to fall into place with other movies of the past, but it had no conventions. It had no identity by the end of it. It was just like, is this a psychodrama? Is it like it's comedy film? Like it had aspects of comedy to it.
I mean, it was just like sort of like similar to Herman's review of Ferrari. The main characters' internal and external goals are unclear by the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like anybody's accomplished anything meaningful, and it doesn't, and that kind of stuff I think does bug people deeply when the movies don't do that sort of. If it doesn't do that, if it doesn't give you an answer to the point of the movie, or at least a new question to ask, it sucks.
Yeah, it's especially if you're going to do a movie about class, because I think ostensibly this is a movie about class. It might be coming. That's another thing too. A weird opinion I might have is that I also think it might be coming out a little late. I feel like there was this little movement in between like 2019 and 2022 where we were getting these really sophisticated drama films about class, and it's still relevant, but it's also like as a movie movement is kind of feels a little dated already.
Triangle of Sadness,
Parasite,
Menu.
The Menu. There's another, like Glass Onion. Like every movie was about class in one way or another.
I think I dislike all of those movies, but I think you're right.
Really? Even Parasite?
No, I like Parasite a lot, and I think Triangle of Sadness is very entertaining. But I don't know if I like it. Or if I have a lot of respect for it.
I got a kick out of The Menu. I thought the Menu was pretty entertaining. I was working in the service industry at the time The Menu came out, so I think I connected with it. So Triangle of Sadness, Parasite, Glass Onion.
Glass Onion was bad too. Yeah, that was bad.
Glass Onion is just kind of, it's too dumb for its own good. Which I feel like this movie, not to the same degree, but I couldn't help but call it dumb when it was over. The ending.
Wait, did you see it at home or in a theater?
I saw it at home, and I think that for me it was the him dancing around naked thing. First of all,
that to me, out of all of the scenes that could be feels subjective to me. I did not interpret that scene as something that was happening within the world of the film in that moment. It kind of felt more like, I don't know, like a Fellini movie moment kind of thing where they're like...
I guess, what does it, in terms of how it relates to this character personally, because I could agree, it could be that. It could be taking place in a more subjective space. What does it say about what this character was trying to do the whole movie? But now that they're all dead, I can be free? What is that? That has nothing to do with his character.
I think it's as simple and as stupid as, I am victorious.
I am victorious. I'm going to wag my dick around. That's what it feels like.
That's kind of what it is. It's kind of like when I rub my dick in your face. I think it's supposed to be like the ultimate disrespect to Saltburn, and it's.
But why?
I don't know.
They don't even.
That's how I read it. I don't agree that it's a good idea, but I do think it's stupid, kind of. But that's how I read the scene.
Because I know that he has this moment at the end with the mom when she's on the deathbed, and he's kind of like he's doing the James Bond reveal of his scheme. Because that's what that is. That's all that scene is.
Yeah.
It's basically just
And
like,
it's
this
terrible.
is what I did. And where he says, like, I hated him and I hated all of you. And it's like, is that
But
a
no, you
weird twist
didn't.
on the twist?
He
Yeah,
didn't.
that's it. You fucked his grave. You had sex with his grave because you loved him so much. You know, like,
And
that
I
was...
think, and what I meant earlier, going back to what I said earlier about not leaning into a genre, is like this character could be presented as a monster, and nothing more than a monster by the end, and that could be an interesting story. It's like, oh, there are people out there.
Yeah.
That I've seen that kind of movie many times, and they can be interesting. But this movie doesn't fully lean into that really at all. They're just...
I feel like this is the sort of movie where it would have made for a good allegory of something. Like, even if you could tie it
Sure.
to like another story or a cultural movement. Like, a good example, this might seem a little out of left field, but like There Will Be Blood. Like, There Will Be Blood is an allegory of capitalism usurping religion and becoming the new religion in the United States. Like, it's an allegorical story that kind of creates a framework that makes it cohesive and timeless and makes sense. But Saltburn doesn't have that. It just like doesn't have, I don't know. Maybe here's to give it credit, maybe a little bit of credit. It could potentially be talking about something that I'm not super privy to because I'm not British, because it does seem to be very much dealing in the culture of these Oxford scholars, which is a bit of a different universe. Like, we don't really have the culture of like going to Oxford is different than going to like, you know, a state university in the United States or even an Ivy League school. So
Sure.
I don't know, maybe it's addressing an aspect of that culture in England that I just don't understand because I didn't grow up there. But
there's some fan theories that we could talk about.
okay,
If
bring
you
it
like
on.
stupid fan theories, I feel like that's a... One of them is Barry Keoghan's character is a vampire.
He says he's a vampire. That's really great. I love that.
I like that.
He
because,
actually
if
he
you
wasn't lying.
They needed to start if you started the movie with like a Serious Man-esque scene with like some sort of ambiguous set, you know, maybe it's the year 750. Barry Keoghan's walking around. You know, you start the movie that way. 2,000 years later.
He's been attending Oxford for the past like 200 years. Like, he's just
he's
always
like an
there.
Oxford. Maybe there's some Oxford lore about, you know. See, that would make the movie interesting. That would make it cool if that was a thing.
That would definitely set it apart. That's so interesting. Yeah, because it's like even something like that, like throwing in a weird genre twist, like, oh, this is actually a supernatural film. Like, that would have been so much more interesting than where it ends, you know, as it is. Okay, more fan theories? Bring
Yeah,
them
there's
on.
a few. Here's one that says the number 6. This is from Screen Rant. The Saltburn estate demands blood sacrifice.
Okay.
A theory suggesting a supernatural element to the film. The setting of Saltburn is a massive aspect of Emerald Fennell's film, distinguishing it specifically with a gothic element, adding a layer of old world mysticism. A dark Saltburn theory suggests that the castle itself is responsible for the deaths, akin to the hotel from The Shining, which summons specific individuals to the premises to do its dark bidding. Of course, this theory adds a supernatural element to Saltburn, which could detract from the human psychosexual nature of the film. Still, it's not far off to suggest that the allure of the Gothic estate could drive a character towards evil deeds. He draws blood. He ingests their fluids. Does he ingest any mom fluid?
Do vampires eat cum?
I don't know.
Maybe they do. Maybe in this universe they do. Okay.
Okay,
I mean,
another fan theory is that Elspeth's character dies from COVID. Which I guess is not a fan theory. I guess she's got a...
Also, this is super nitpicky, but I also thought that the way he kills her was comically stupid. Because all of the other people, it was like this very concealed kind of like sneaky way of killing them. But for her, he's just going to yank her entire breathing tube out. And nobody's going to be like, oh, who yanked her breathing tube out?
Yeah.
But yeah.
She's,
that-
yeah.
That's super nitpicky, but for some reason it bothered me. I was just like, that's not a very discreet way to kill somebody. It's like, I think Richard E. Grant's character was one of my favorites in the whole movie. I love Sir James. He was hilarious.
I mean, I keep trying to find good stuff. There's really not anything interesting about this, actually.
It has a little bit of that artsy, like, as much as I like, art films, like David Lynch films and stuff, there's like this, there's this style of it that just feels boring and dumb and stereotypical. I think The Dancing Naked is one of those things, but it has that art school pretension going for it a little bit in certain moments.
I'm trying to think of another movie recently that's left me with a similar feeling. Vanilla Sky kind of gives me that vibe.
Yeah, Vanilla Sky, or like, oh god, now I'm racking my brain for things that kind of fit in with that. There's a movie called Running with Scissors from 2006. That's about it's based on the book Running with Scissors by Augustin Burroughs, directed by Ryan Murphy. That has a lot of stuff in that. It has that vibe where it's like going for high art, but it just like feels like the feeling you get when you go to another school that does an art program and watch like a performance art routine by them. Yeah. It's just like, if we show dicks in this movie, this is the potent stuff. You see a dick in a movie.
It is becoming it is a sign of a real serious movie.
I'm shitting on the movie way worse than I did in my review. I still, as much as I'm shitting on it,
those are the bad things out of the way. We've discussed our complaints. What did you like about it?
I really think that for the entire like first and second act of the movie, I was just incredibly intrigued about what was happening. I really, really, really wanted to. The movie did a great job at making me want to know more. And
Do you think there's a version of that film with a different edit that works really well?
I think if I were to pinpoint a problem with this film, my theory is that they phoned in the third act and were hoping that no one would notice, and it was good enough. Or it's a sort of thing where it's like, I really don't know what to do with this movie. This is the best I can do. Hopefully audiences will go for it and I'll win a few Golden Globes. I did a good enough job in the beginning. I should get that. They submitted this and they were like, I'm going to get a B- on this. Basically, that was their thought, turning it in.
I mean, if that's a B-, yeah, it is a B- though. I didn't think that's what they get.
Yeah, it's it's very, very, the characterization is great. The way the plot is unfolding. I loved the sexual tension. I loved the fact that really didn't actually go anywhere. And it's between all of the men in the movie. There's a constant sexual tension between all of them, which was my favorite thing, because I thought that that's what this movie was. This was a movie about the inadvertent homoerotic tension that exists between men at all times. See, even that was like, if you could have made the end of the movie sum that up in a way that was like super elegant, this would have been a fucking great movie. Would have been an amazing movie with a very, very unique approach to its themes that you don't really see. But instead, it just it falls back on this dumb, weird twist that is not interesting. And if you're like, I saw it coming from a mile away. I don't know. I don't mean to be that guy that's just like, I saw that coming. I knew that was going to happen. But like,
it's so funny. I want to go back to that because I didn't see any of it coming, and it felt so lame when it was revealed.
It's lame no matter how you look at it.
And I don't know if I didn't see it coming because my brain was just like, well, no, that can't be what it is. That would be too stupid.
That was my thing is I knew the twist was coming, but I was hoping for a really good reason for it all. And hopefully not sounding like a broken record, but that really is the be all end all of why it kind of ended up being dumb. Is it
like the rocks, the tire deflation thing? That felt to me not intentional from the character, just sloppy, too convenient. You know, like the movie was being kind of lazy, like, oh yeah, they run into each other like this, huh? Cool.
They also they don't justify why Barry Keoghan would have targeted the Felix character beyond just I was watching from afar and I guess fell in love with him or something.
That's why I like the idea that he's an ancient being.
He's a vampire
maybe originally from Saltburn.
See, that would have been dope. That would have been amazing if it was like he's
about. We'll just decide that that's what it is.
Saltburn was his estate. It's his ancestral home, and it was taken over by British royalty, and this is his revenge against the generations of the monarchy that subjugated his kind and stole his home away from him. Even that would be so chef's kiss. Amazing.
And that's why I think you need that year 700 setup or that 1400 setup.
Or even just like his parents are middle class caretakers of British estates and he hates people of noble blood because they subjugate his parents. Like even something like that.
And it would have been great
if his parents,
if his parents in this alternate edit of the movie, his parents are dead. They died 1,000 years ago.
Yes, his dad is Lucifer. His dad is literally the.
So we need to make some cuts to the movie. We need a title crawl at the beginning.
It's like in Legend.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Okay.
Oh God,
that would be fucking great. That would be a better movie.
We fix Saltburn.
That's the title of the podcast. We fix Saltburn.
That's the title of this episode is We Fix Saltburn.
Okay, so the new plot of the movie is Barry Keoghan's character is the Lord of Saltburn in like the year 1200 or something.
Yes.
And there's some sort of political revolution and he is exiled. Little do they know that he's actually a vampire and the son of Lucifer.
This sounds like the dopest movie ever.
Maybe we should
and then
just
it would
write
make
this
sense.
Movie, dude.
It would make sense that he's like, a libertine with crazy sexual tastes,
yes,
and stuff like that. Because he comes from the era of like he lived through the era of Marquis de Sade and learned about libertinism and about dominant relationships.
He was having orgies with the Romans.
Yeah, see, I love this.
He's basically like
so
Wolverine.
Pleasing.
Yeah.
Anyway, Saltburn.
No
C+.
more Saltburn. I'm tired of talking about. Okay, I will say one thing. We talked about this on the other pod episode a little bit, but my parents watched it, and their reaction to it was really surprising to me because they were not shocked. Really, my dad's reaction was not shock. He was like, he didn't go, "Oh, it was really gross. It was too much for me." His reaction was really just like, it was okay.
I mean, it is. People called it shocking, but I would definitely say it's
my
gross
audience.
More
when
than
I saw
shocking.
it on opening night, the audience I was with lost it.
You know what it really is,
and this is something people were screaming. Yeah, dude.
Really?
When I saw it opening night, 5-6 people walked out halfway through the movie. People were screaming at the top of their lungs. I will say though, it was a young crowd. Probably 17 to 20.
Yeah, because I would call it gross in a kind of juvenile way. And I also think what makes it truly like shocking in the moment, and this is actually something I appreciated about it, was it's such an escalation. There really up until that moment, that specific scene with the bathwater, there isn't much that's happened. It's the first act's very long. Everything about like them meeting and their friendship in college and then him inviting him like that there's all this tension going on between the two characters. And then he sees him jerking off in the bathtub and you think that's like just like a little bit like to kind of push things further. And then next thing you know, he's rimming that fucking drain and it's like so abrupt.
See,
and I actually liked that. I was like,
what you missed in your first viewing is that a part of the ancient curse is ejaculate. And so
we don't have to talk about Saltburn no more. I have another. I could go. I have my other review. I have 3 reviews on Letterboxd. Getting better, but I have Killers of the Flower Moon. If we want to hear that review. Killers of the Flower Moon, 5 stars. Heart. Gotta love a good revisionist Western film. Hard to say where it stands in the rankings of Scorsese's many masterpieces, but this deeply melancholy film proves that the man remains to be a true force of nature in the medium. Scorsese fervently continues to bring light to the most damning, ugly stories buried deep within the annals of America's short memory. If this film provides any indication, Scorsese will continue churning out masterwork films like this until the sun explodes. Big time recommend on this one. I loved it. I am not always, I guess you could call me maybe a bit of a Scorsese stan. I like most of his movies. I don't really think I've seen any that I could like truly crap on or anything. But he's made so many different movies. I'm sure there's something in there that's like, there's got to be the worst Scorsese. We'll figure out in this discussion what the worst Scorsese film is, I'm sure. But I thought this film was not only was it good in terms of just the standard that we hold Scorsese to, I felt like it added like new things. Like it felt like it was a young perspective almost. It didn't feel like an 82-year-old man made the movie. An 82-year-old white man made the movie. I thought that it did a fantastic job giving dignity to the culture that it was talking about. I think that there was like one complaint about Killers of the Flower Moon that was actually made by somebody who was a part of the Osage, that he wished it was more from the perspective of the Osage, because it kind of is from like Leo's perspective a little bit. But Scorsese's really, really good at turning people turning me specifically onto stories in American history that I probably wouldn't have come across if he didn't make a film about it. So it was cool to learn about this, because I liked the fact that it was a Western, but it was like a 20th century Western. Like it wasn't like your typical. I think most Westerns probably take place either slightly before, slightly after, or during the Civil War. It was interesting to see one that took place in almost like 1920, where there were vehicles and cars, and that like. It seems as though like the Native American culture had become pretty modernized. It's cool to see that, at that point,
and not have it be the theme of the movie. Because there's a lot of movies, Western. There are a few Westerns where it's like end of an era storytelling kind of situation. It's like, oh well, this is the end of the West, I guess. But this movie didn't really even seem to even address that.
It does. It had the reason that I would call it a revisionist Western is that I do think that it is kind of turning some of the conventions of, because I feel like Westerns are always about growth. Like your typical Westerns, they always kind of feature this idea of like creating something out of nothing and having nothing but opportunity. Whereas revisionist Westerns always they're always the opposite, where it's like modernization is like death, and violence and all of that sort of stuff. This movie made for a really good revisionist Western just because it depicted this kind of frontier as, everything's about oil money, which is different. Like there wasn't this aspect of like, you fight for what you need, and like people are just kind of killing each other, like out in the open to settle differences and duels and all that sort of stuff. Everything was very, sneaky and sickening and gross. I don't know, like the things that the characters were doing in this movie were so deeply sickening at parts. That's unique, even unique for even some Westerns. But yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great. Well, it's that time, everybody. He's been on hold for God knows how long. He might always be on hold for all I know. We have Herman from Studio City, everybody. What's going on, Herman?
Sup guys, it's your boy Herman here, and I just wanted to call in to discuss a film that's gotten a lot of, a divisive opinion lately, and that's the film Saltburn. Now, recently watched this film Saltburn, and I have to tell you, I am just very, very confused at what I just watched. Now, for multiple reasons, I'm confused, and to start going down my list here, number one, a lot of inaccurate stuff for the time period. For example, the film has a scene in early summer 2007, and they are in the UK, mind you, and they are watching a DVD of Superbad. Now, anybody who knows anything about how time works, you would know that Superbad did not release in the United States until late summer 2007. So how they are in the UK watching a DVD version is just preposterous. And not to mention, there's also a song by Midgement. It's a band called Midgement, spelled MGMT, I believe. And there's a song called Time to Pretend, which everybody knows did not release yet, featured in the film. So that's just a list of things that already had me ticked off. And then by the end of the film, I just have no idea what the hell I just watched. There's multiple scenes that show the main character, and it's kind of told in a little bit of flashbacks at the end, where it alludes to the fact that he maybe planned everything out in advance. But then there's a shot of him with the protagonist's friend's mother at a coffee shop, and he appears to maybe be older, but he's wearing glasses, so I was just unsure if it was even the same character. I'm thinking, does he have a twin brother who possibly has worse eyesight than him? He's clacking away on the keyboard, and I just have no idea what it says on the keyboard. He maybe had money in his wallet at one point and pretended he didn't, which I was confused because, okay, is there maybe a third brother who has money? So I'm thinking, how many of the main characters are there? Is there more? Is it triplets? I didn't know. I didn't really understand. And then there might have even been a fourth brother at the end it's a very, very famous shot. He's dancing through the house, Saltburn. And I guess the moral of the story is the other brothers are smart, and then the final brother just happens to have a glorious cock. I'm assuming that's the only thing I'm supposed to take from that final scene. It's just a glorious cock. But anyway, I would love to hear your opinion of Saltburn.
Thanks for listening, everybody. I am TapeGoat. Don't forget to check us out on Patreon. If you become a subscriber, you can gain access to exclusive early... Shit, my brain right now. Also, don't forget to check us out on YouTube. Share, like, and subscribe. Love you.